Mayor Allen, it is now 6:30. You may proceed with the meeting.
Thank you. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder to call the meeting to order, please? Councillor Ma Chapman. I got to line up all the. And Councillor Cabral. That the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Springwater of March 3rd, 2021 come to order at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Before we continue, on behalf of Council, I just want to send our condolences with the tragic passing of Kevin Morgan to his mother, Jen Mantle, father, Chris Morgan, stepmother, and 4 siblings and family and friends. Very tragic accident, and he will be sorely missed. With COVID-19, Council is taking the necessary steps to limit in-person meetings. As such, members of Council will be participating in the meeting electronically, as will staff. The Administration Centre is closed to the public. Residents are provided with the options of watching the streaming by tuning into www.springwater.ca, listening by phone by dialing into 647-558-0588 and using the ID number 837-2728-0747 and then the pound sign. This option is available during the meeting. And if people want to look at the meeting after it is over, they can go on the website and view it on, watch the video on the Township's YouTube channel. Are there disclosures of pecuniary interests this evening? Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. I'll be calling conflict on item 8.1, and we'll do so again at that point in the agenda.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Just a question. I have the councillors, 3 of the councillors on the top of my screen, and then the person who's talking. How do I get that to the side of the screen when I can see all of you at once? Anybody know that?
Mayor Allen,
Yes.
At the top right of your Zoom screen, you'll see a button that says View.
Yes.
If you click on that, you can use Gallery View, and it should show all of the tiles equally.
Okay, I got it. There we go. That helps. Okay, item number 3 on the agenda, deputations and presentations. There are no items. A question period. During question period, we have the ability for people to submit questions or come online and pose them virtually. And if you submit your request to the clerk by noon of the day of the meeting to do either of those, then she would be glad to help you out with respect to that. Further details of that are on the agenda. Item number 5.1, could I have a mover and seconder to get the minutes on the floor, please? Councillor Cabral and Councillor Moore. We have 2 minutes. Any questions, comments with respect to those? Motion is that the minutes of council listed herein be approved as presented. The minutes of the regular meeting of council February 17, 2021 and the special meeting of council February 22nd, 2021. All those in favor? It is carried. Item 5.2, minutes of boards, committees, and organizations. A mover and seconder to get this on the floor, please. Councillor Moore and Deputy Mayor Coughlin. 6 items here. Any comments with respect to any of these? Motion is that the minutes of the boards, committees, and other organizations listed herein be received as information. Minutes of the Elmville BIA Annual General Meeting, November 19, 2019. Minutes of the Elmville BIA Annual General Meeting, November 19, 2020. Minutes of the Midhurst Community Recreation Association, January 7, 2021. Minutes of the Springwater Township Public Library Board Meeting, January 19, 2021. Minutes of the Elmville BIA Board Meeting of January 21, 2021, and minutes of the Heritage Advisory Committee meeting of January 26, 2021. All those in favor? Carried. Correspondence and information items. There's no items, so we turn to action reports in item 7. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 action reports. One has been deleted as it's not ready to come forward. Can I have a mover and second to get these on the floor, please? Councillor Cabral and Councillor Moore. Would anybody like to have any of these pulled? Anybody have questions with respect to any of these? Councillor Hannah.
Thank you. I just have a question about the 7.2, the efficiency and service delivery audit. Are we supposed to be identifying the chair and people on the committee, or is through council, or they would be doing it themselves when they meet?
They'll be doing it themselves when they meet. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Okay, the motion is that the action report items 7.2 through to 7.5 and 7.7 be received, and that the recommendations contained therein be approved as presented. 7.2, the efficiency and service delivery audit ad hoc committee approval of terms of reference. 7.3, the County of Simcoe bursary program. 7.4, landscape architectural consulting services for phase 2 of Stone Manor Park. 7.5, site plan SP-2021-001, Roca Holdings, Inc., 9 Queen Street West. And 7.7, release of securities, Elmvale Paramedic Station. All those in favor? Councillor Moore? Oops, she's frozen. Okay, that is carried. Next, we move to scrolling down, information reports. Can I have a mover and seconder to get these on the floor, please? Councillor Ma and Councillor Ritchie. Now, this is where Deputy Mayor Coughlin declares a conflict of interest on sub-item number 1. Any questions with respect to any of these, Council?
Mayor, may I ask that 8.1 be removed separately, to be discussed separately, so that I can still vote on 2, 3, and 4?
Fair enough. Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Marilyn. 8.1, item number 4, purchase a new box, VBX 6500 hopper spreader.
Do you
I
have
just
a question
have a
about
question.
that? Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'd like to know what vehicle that's going into and what hopper it's replacing.
Okay, I'll call upon
If that's
Manager Ryan
available.
Anderson, please.
Yes, so through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Cabral, that already went in the unit. So that went into R16, which services the south section of the township for parking lots. And that replaced a unit that we've had for years that you're familiar with, that was used for the last, I would say, 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, would it be fair to say that that is the unit that gets slid in and it goes in the 1 ton or 3/4 ton pickup?
Yes, it goes in the 3/4 ton pickup. Yep.
Thank you. I agree with you. It was due for replacement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about the 2, 3, or 4 item? All right, the motion is that the report items listed herein be received as information. Item 2, the telecommunications tower proposal for 10370 Old 2nd South. A telecommunications tower proposal for 16464 Forbes Road. Purchase of the new Boss VBX 6500 hopper spreader. All those in favor? That is carried. Now, we are dealing with ZB, the first item, ZB 2021-002, M. Coghlan, Re. 1017 Coghlan Road, which Deputy Mayor Coghlan has declared a conflict. Any question with respect to this item? Okay, then let's have a mover and seconder, please, to receive this, Councillor Cabral and Councillor Ma, that the report item ZB 2021-002, Re. M. Coghlan, 1017 Coghlan Road, be received as information. All those in favor? It is carried. Verbal reports. Director Spagno, update us please on 9.1 official plan and 9.2 economic development, if there are any, please.
Thank you, Marilyn. I'd just like to to thank everybody for participating in the stakeholders meetings for the official plan review process that took place on Tuesday, February the 23rd. The presentations have been provided on the township's official plan review page, and staff will be accepting comments, and the department will be accepting comments with respect to those reports and the presentations up until March 12th and beyond. And also, in addition to that, staff are also preparing reports to bring forward the cannabis reports with respect to recommendations at an upcoming meeting in March as well. And that concludes my verbal report. I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Spagno? Councillor Hanna?
Thank you. And just an observation, there was some confusion over who could be involved in the meeting at 2 p.m. that took place. The staff were able to get council connected eventually, and there was just some complaints from residents that I received that also wanted to be part of that. So I just suggest in going ahead in the future, if there's some way to involve everybody, even if it's just so they can just participate by listening, I think it would save some criticism. Thank you.
Any comment to that, Director Spagno, or just duly noted?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just duly noted. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to 9.3 and 9.4 Midhurst Development Update. CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So from a Midhurst development perspective, the site servicing contractor, Condrain, is continuing with its work and is expected to be to base asphalt by July 1st. That's their expected timeline, obviously weather permitting. The sales office is progressing well. Staff has had some meetings with two of the builders to discuss the building permit application process and certified models. And so those builders are aiming to have certified model documentation to the township in the next month or so for building services to review. And then further from that, looking at obviously constructing some certified models. Further to that, site preparation work continues on the utility campus. So if you've driven by there, you'll see that the contractor has essentially completed the tree clearing, and some of the logs have been stockpiled on the site, and they will be staying there until half load season is over, which would be May 1st. And finally, staff and our consultants continue to work with the developer on the external works agreement, and we're aiming to have that to council in the near future. I'll pause there, Mr. Mayor, if there's any questions on that update. Otherwise, I'll move to the COVID update.
Council, any questions of the CAO? Councillor Hanna?
Thank you again, Mayor. Through you to the CAO, we had a conversation, and I appreciate the CAO was looking into it. We'd just like, in case the residents are still listening, to see if we could provide any information. There was inquiries about the roadway from the bridge on Finley Mill Road out to Bayfield Street. The properties being surveyed this past week. The information from the people doing the survey to the resident was that it was to do with road widening or sewers through development. And I wasn't aware of it. And the CEO, as I said, was kind enough to check up on it. I didn't know if he could give us any update at this time.
CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Hanna. Thank you, Mr. Councillor Hanna. Yes, that's correct. After you had sent your email to me, staff did look into it, and we were advised that one of the consultants for one of the developers in the east end of Midhurst is doing some survey work as it relates to neighborhood 2, and more specifically as it relates to the sanitary sewer line that is to be installed along Finley Mill Road. So they had begun some work in the fall, but weren't able to complete the work, and so now they're back out conducting some of that work.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to 9.4 COVID-19 update, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as everyone is likely aware, the province of Ontario announced last Friday at around 5 p.m. That the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit, which includes the Township of Springwater, was being put back into the gray lockdown zone of the province's revised COVID-19 response framework. So this was effective this past Monday. The movement of the Simcoe Muskoka area into the gray lockdown is a short-term emergency break intended to prevent the possibility of a third wave of the pandemic, and more importantly, was put in place due to the health unit's concern over the variant of concern, namely the UK variant. Simcoe County has been hit hard with the variant of concern, and we are currently experiencing a surge in the case of the UK variant. The health unit is reporting that they are seeing a large increase of cases and outbreaks of this variant in workplaces, long-term care facilities, a child care center, and an apartment building. Variants of concern are more contagious than the original COVID-19 strain and can result in more severe disease, which means it will take more intensive efforts from all of us. They mentioned that countries that have had high numbers of variants of concern have experienced a third wave, and hence it's important to act early to prevent this from happening here. As per the health unit's website, to date, 205 local cases have been tested positive for the COVID-19 variant of concern, namely the UK B117 variant, and an additional 378 cases have screened positive, and they're awaiting confirmatory testing. Further to that, effective yesterday, March 2nd, a revised Section 22 class order under the Health Protection and Promotion Act was issued by the health unit, or the medical officer of health for Simcoe Muskoka. And this was to enforce COVID-19 self-isolation requirements. The order actually originally took effect October 6th, but was revised yesterday and remains in effect until the medical officer of health declares it no longer needed. With the recent move back to the gray lockdown zone, the Township Administration Center, along with all other township facilities, are currently closed to the public until further notice. Staff are available, as some are in the office on their team day, as well as others are continuing to work remotely. Further to that, our public libraries are still providing curbside services to our residents. To date, Springwater has had 174 confirmed cases of COVID-19, of which 163 have now recovered, and we have no new deaths to report. And I'll conclude that for my update this evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to answer any questions from members of council.
Thank you, CEO Schmidt. Any questions with respect to this? Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just to comment more than anything else, I did receive a call from a business owner with respect to going back into the lockdown situation. Of course, I certainly understand the reasoning behind it. What I found reinforced for me was that there was a bit of a lack of communication. And I recall back in the spring when COVID first came upon us, I'd made a request, and this came about as a result of the CAO forwarding a communication from our communications officer regarding basically press releases that the provincial government had put together. And CAO Schmidt was kind enough to forward those on to council members. And at the time, I reached out to our communications officer asking why those types of press releases and communiques weren't simply provided to council members as a whole, rather than just a couple of individuals on council. And I was told it was because of the emergency control group. When I got my call this past week from one of the business people in Elmvale, I really didn't know how to respond. And it was shortly thereafter that I happened to notice that CEO Schmidt had sent out another communique, which again alluded to what was going on in township. And I just kind of taken aback because I was of the opinion back in the spring that these communiques, press releases and whatnot would be afforded to all members of council on a timely basis. So that's causing me a bit of concern. I think the reasoning back then was that certain members of council were part of the emergency control group. That's fine. However, these communiques are public in nature anyway. They were immediately posted onto Twitter. They were also immediately posted by the provincial government. Same with the federal ones. It's just that we have someone within our organization who is kind of like a gatekeeper for this information. And for lack of a better term, the gate seems to be closed more often than it's open. I would really, really appreciate it if in the future, these communiques that come from the provincial government regarding COVID or pretty much anything else that are general in nature, I would really appreciate to know about them so that when I do get someone phoning me, I kind of have a bit more knowledge rather than asking them to, go on a hold while I kind of reach out to somebody to try and figure out what's going on. And of course, every member of council is certainly aware that confidentially for certain matters, confidentially, certain conditions would exist. And we're certainly aware of that. So I just going forward, I would really appreciate it if those particular types of communiques might be made available to all members of council. I mean, if a member of council doesn't want it, that's fine. Personally, for myself, I'd like to be informed going forward. This is something that's been going on for a long, long time, and it would really be nice for us to be on top of it rather than always kind of finding out little bits here, there, and everywhere based on whether the CAO believes it's important for council members to know and feels comfortable forwarding it to us. Or Mayor Allen, yourself, you've gotten a few communiques over the last little while. You've been kind enough to share those directly with council, and I do appreciate that. So I just hope that moving forward that some of those communiques might be made more readily available to council members so that we're in a better position to know what's going on in the township and how it affects our residents, and also be able to answer those questions that residents might pose to us, or in this case, business owners. So I just wondering if something might be able to be done with respect to that going forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Before I turn it over to CAO Schmidt, as you know, the hot topic of vaccines, as soon as I get information, I get it out to all of council. And if there are significant COVID updates, CAO Schmidt's been sending out emails to council. Otherwise, we've followed the practice of gathering information to the CIP, which goes out weekly on Fridays. So and unless we go back to the older practice of every time there's a matter of interest, we forward it to all of council, and you'll be getting inundated with things on a daily basis. But let me, before I follow back with you, Councillor Cabral, I'll just let CEO Schmidt have a comment, and then you can follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Councillor Cabral. So the most recent event that happened last Friday, my apologies, but what had happened was I had reached out to the communications officer indicating that I was aware that an announcement would likely be happening on Friday, and I was in meetings and interviews most of the day until 5:30, 6 o'clock on Friday night, and hence wasn't going to be hearing the announcement right away. So as kind of my backup, if you will, to inform the community control group, I had asked her to just inform the group, which obviously the mayor and the deputy mayor are a part of that group, and hence why they would have been included in that communication. Understanding your point, and yes, I believe we did have this discussion previously, so my apologies. Again, it's not that we're trying to keep information from council, it's just more along the lines of that's the group, and so anybody on that email would be part of the CCC community control group, and hence that was the direction that I provided the communications officer, and then obviously in turn sent that out to all members of council to advise accordingly. So your comments are noted. So
follow up, Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And I do appreciate CAO Schmidt in advising of the circumstances. It's just when I looked at the timelines there, it was about an hour between when the original one was sent out and about an hour after CAO Schmidt forwarded it to the rest of the members of council. And certainly, I don't want to be inundated with all kinds of things that come in. I wouldn't want to be sitting where CAO Schmidt sits. He's got stuff coming in continuously, I'm sure, from everybody within the organization and without. But I'm saying these key pieces of information that are coming from both the provincial government or the federal government regarding COVID-19, that yes, would be going to the emergency control group. I really don't see that there's any difficulty in putting council members on that particular list, so that at least we're all apprised when it happens, when we get it, before the Twitters go out, before the media releases go out, so that we know. So maybe there's an opportunity to vet some stuff, but certainly the stuff that deals with the safety of our residents here in Springwater, really council members should be apprised of that immediately when it arrives, not even an hour or 2 hours later, because questions come right away quite often. And it's better for us to seem like we're informed rather than seem like we're not, and then having to reach out to people for information that was readily available from the get-go. So that's
Okay.
the only kind of point I'm trying to make here. So I do appreciate CAO Schmidt's bringing us up to speed on this last one. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding COVID for CEO Schmidt? Moving on to 9.5 county updates, Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. And through you, this last week, County Council had, our I'm on the control group now. Our service delivery group and governance has met this week. In our service delivery group, there was updates provided, but there also was a motion to have County Council consider pertaining to the conservation authorities through that group. So that's the group that is looking at the service delivery components within the county. So that will be coming to the county floor. And then subsequently in our governance model meeting, there was a resolution to move forward to County Council regarding having County Council consider the 15 or member, I guess it would be 17, including a full-time warden. So to re-look again at the composition of County Council. So that will be coming forward to County Council as well. So those are the two, I would say, larger issues this week, and County Council meets on Tuesday.
Thank you. Municipal updates, 9.6. Any municipal updates? Councillor Ritchie?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I just want to bring the council, just last week, they finally got around to cleaning out the drain. And I've been back there several times, and I'm totally amazed at the amount of water flowing out of these outlets. I've counted 6 of them. The smallest one is 6-inch and the largest one is 12-inch. And it seems like the more they flow, it's just so much water coming out of there. And, talking to the farmers back there, I guess this has been plugged up for a number of years. So it sure is, it's sure happy for the farmers to know that their fields are going to be drying up and ready for spring planting. So definitely good news there for that. Given the fact we put this in the budget in 2019, we finally got it done 2 years later. But there's a number of factors that you could throw in there that's taken so long, but it's definitely worthwhile coming. And when I look at that, and I welcome all councillors to, Floss Road 6 West, go back there, take a look. It's just amazing to see the amount that how it's flowing out of there. But the next one is our is the Swaley drain that's going to be hopefully. I heard there's supposed to be something coming here in the near future, and hopefully we can get something going on that to help those farmers out down there in that area. They need the same attention as what we've given here, and I hope we can get something going there for them. So I just want to bring that to everybody's attention.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Maybe we'll use this opportunity to have CAO Schmidt give us a quick update on the Swaley, knowing that it's coming before council at some time in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Councillor Ritchie. So I am just in the process of actually trying to draft an email to members of council just to provide a bit of a history, because I know some may not be as familiar with this project as others, but I will endeavor to have an email out to you in the next day or two. Here, it's just taking me a little bit longer to get it to you. But with that said, we did, a few of us, the mayor, myself, and our drainage superintendent, as well as the drainage engineer, Ken Smart, did recently meet with the MVCA and had a discussion about the status of the project. There has been some exchange of emails and submissions between the two parties. And it's my understanding that the MVCA, well, I know that the MVCA received Mr. Smart's, I guess, third or fourth submission earlier last month, February. And so the MVCA has told us that we should be getting a response in the next week or two here as to what their position is going to be on the Swaley. And once we have that, then we'll be in front of council to provide that information to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other municipal updates? Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just a comment more than anything else. Just recently found out this week that the Brewers Retail, or the beer store as it's known nowadays in Elmvale, is apparently going to close in April. I think this will be a great loss for the community, to be honest with you, because over the course of the last several years, the community has actually grown in size with a higher population rate. Of course, all of the cottagers passing through in the summertime frequent that location as well. I don't know what the reasoning is behind the closing of the beer store, or whether or not this beer store is going to be relocated. I see Councillor Ritchie wants to speak to it as well. Maybe I know for people in Elmvale, it'll now necessitate at least a 15 or 20-minute drive to another location to quench their thirst. And having the liquor store handy doesn't really resolve the issue, because they'll only sell you a 6-pack, so you can't economize by buying a larger box of beer in the same fashion that you can at the beer store. So I'm just curious whether or not CAO Schmidt, if there's any way that we might be able to reach out to the Brewers Retail and maybe, for lack of a better term, voice our displeasure and see whether or not there's any opportunity, or whether or not there's any plans to reopen or relocate a Brewers Retail location within Elmvale, if that's part of their plan.
Okay, before I go to CEO Schmidt, it looks like Councillor Ritchie had something to add to this topic.
Mayor Allen, I want to speak to something else.
Okay.
So I'll wait till this is over with.
Okay. CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Cabral. I wasn't aware of that, Councillor Cabral, but have no problem with having staff investigate to see what information we can find out and provide that back to council. I know Councillor Ritchie, and maybe this is what Councillor Ritchie was going to ask, so I'll speak to it right now. Is the old TD Bank in Elmvale? Councillor Ritchie asked me to look into that, and I'm still waiting a response from the TD on what's happening there, because I believe in Creemore there's been some, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Ritchie, I believe that there was some kind of it was provided to the community, or a community group, I guess, the building there or something, but there's activity happening in Creemore at their site, their former TD site, and in Elmvale, I haven't been able to obtain any further information as of yet. I'm still awaiting a response from them. So once I have that, I definitely will provide it to members of council.
So, Councillor Cabral, until we can find out that information, you'll have to get out the demijohns and start making your beer again. So I'm sure you did that sometime in your past. But Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just to follow up with CAO Schmidt regarding the TD Bank, I heard that the TD Bank had given the building and the land to Creemore, and not that we need another building, but anyways, I just thought it was worth probing into if they'd be interested in doing that with us. I know there was an offer on the table, and they pulled it they pulled the offer because he said there was a problem with the title. Now, whether there's the problem with the title or whether there's a problem with because there was a gas station besides it, I don't know. And maybe with a bit of research, we'll find a little bit more out. Mayor Allen, I'd like to switch channels for a minute. And I'd just like to talk about, I had a gentleman, he's retired now, lives on Albert Street in Hillsdale, and he called to thank me of the good job, and I want to bring this to everybody's attention, about the good job that our staff was doing in keeping our sidewalks clear. And this gentleman, I know him very well, he's a retired heavy equipment operator and very, very good operator as well. Been working around equipment all his life. Anyways, he said, you know what? They've done a very good job keeping our sidewalks clean and safe, especially during the COVID. Everybody's out walking at night to get some exercise. And I thought, you know what? That's something that we're thinking about. So I know, and just up the street there, we've had some issues with some ice on the catch basin. Scott and them are working to resolve those issues, and I know they'll get that fixed up. Nothing mild weather wouldn't fix, but I thought whether it be in Hillsdale or in Elmvale, you see the boys out doing their jobs and doing a good job. And this COVID thing has really affected a lot of people. And to allow people to get out and walk safely, I want to mention that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. It's nice to have positive comments from residents relayed to all of us. So thank you. Any other municipal notices? Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Marilyn. I just didn't want to add to the confusion, but when we're talking about Creemore, I was under the impression that happened up in Coldwater where the TD Bank gave up the branch, but I may have.
Maybe they did. I heard Creemore. So.
Well, one or the other.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin seems to know something about this. Go ahead.
The building in Creemore has been demoed and it's now part of the community park beside the food land there. I'm not sure if it was left to a community organization or Clearview Township as a whole, but I can definitely help assist with looking into that if necessary.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 10, notice of motion 10.1. Councillor Cabral has brought forward a notice of motion. Before we get this on the floor, do we have a seconder for this? Councillor Hannah. All right, I will turn it over, Councillor Cabral, for a brief overview or update or perspective.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. This here came about as a result of what I perceived as challenges with the prior principles of integrity code of conduct. There were questions when we first brought it on board, some changes that some councillors wanted to see put in place. It seemed to be very cumbersome. The one that our present Integrity Commissioner was kind enough to provide addresses all of the requirements of the Municipal Act. It's lighter. It doesn't include a lot of verbose commentary and whatnot. And I think it's much better suited to being a workable code of conduct for us here in Springwater. And therefore, I put the motion forward. And I would hope that council members would support getting rid of the present one and bringing in one that actually aligns itself completely with the Municipal Act.
And this contemplates, I'll remind council, bringing this forward, a bylaw with respect to this on the March 17th meeting. So open up for discussion or questions. Councillor Hannah.
He needs to unmute.
He's working on it.
Thank you. I'm sorry, the button is so tiny, I can hardly get the darn thing to work. So appreciate the patience. I support this considerably because I recall when this first came forward, the present code of conduct, I spoke at length about all the commentary being excessive and it was not consistent with what the province had directed that we needed to have for a code of conduct. So I think streamlining the code of conduct and bringing it consistent with our new integrity commissioner is the proper way to go.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, there's a mover and seconder, and the motion reads that council hereby desires to repeal and replace bylaw 2019-033 being a bylaw to adopt code of conduct for members of council and local boards, and that bylaw 2019-033 shall be replaced with the code of conduct for members of council and local boards provided by the Township Integrity Commissioner Robert J. Swayze, attached hereto as Appendix A, and further that the bylaw will be brought forward to council for consideration at the March 17, 2021 regular meeting of council. All those in favor? That is carried. Any other notices of motion? Moving on to item 11, items for future consideration. Any items for future consideration? Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. And through you, I guess it's more of just of a placeholder. I tend to forget until half loads come on, but we spoke years ago with the previous directors about the possibility of bringing a full load route through the municipality. And I just wanted to follow up with that so that we can be prepared for that prior to the spring of next year. So my apologies for dropping the ball on that, but if I could have that added back to the list, that would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, we certainly will. Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just on that thought, though, we do have full load routes through the township in a way, because the county roads are all full load routes. And I could be wrong, but I don't know if all of our township roads outside of the gravel ones themselves are restricted to half loads over the course of the winter months. I just putting it out there that there is a way for people to get through the township as it is. So I'm not sure whether or not that was something that maybe got put on the back burner because maybe they didn't feel it was something that was necessary. Seems to be the gravel roads are the half loads. I can't imagine that they would be able to change that.
I think it's something that we all need updating and further education on, because it seems to be an annual topic in one way or another. So I think warrants being an item for future consideration that we'll hear back on from staff about. Okay, moving on to bylaws, item 12.1. Can I have a mover and seconder for approval of the bylaws? Deputy Mayor Coughlin and Councillor Ma, that the bylaws listed herein. Oh, yes. And Deputy Mayor Coughlin is declaring a conflict with respect to, sorry, Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you. It was actually just to follow up with Clerk Ainsworth as to whether or not I just want to make sure that I don't catch myself here, that do I vote on the bylaws or the adjournment and all that, or it's not often that we have someone in conflict, so I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything properly.
Yeah, no, it's not one of the bylaws included, but so I don't think you have to, but Clerk Ainsworth, please confirm.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. No, there is no need to declare on the confirmatory bylaw or the adjournment.
Right. Okay, that the bylaws listed herein be signed and sealed by the Mayor and Clerk. 2021-20 Community Broadband Advisory Committee Terms of Reference. 2021-21 Efficiency and Service Delivery Audit Ad Hoc Committee Terms of Reference. 2021-022 Amend Committee Appointments Bylaw 2019-015 for the 218 to 222 term. All those in favor? That's carried. Confirmatory bylaw, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Moore and Councillor Cabral, that bylaw 2021-023 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on March 3rd, 2021, listed herein be signed and sealed by the Mayor and Clerk. All those in favor? Carried. And a mover and seconder to adjourn, please. Councillor Moore and Councillor Ma, that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 7:14 PM to meet again a regular meeting March 17th, 2021 at 6:30 PM. All those in favor? That is carried, and we'll keep you apprised with what transpires in the next several days with the zone color that we're in. So
Perfect. Thank you.
thanks. Stay well.
Not used